The ancient Roman encyclopedist Pliny the Elder described the mayfly as the Ephemeroptera in his Natural History. The river bug on the Black Sea at midsummer brings down some thin membranes that look like berries, out of which burst a four-legged caterpillar in the manner of the creature mentioned above, but it does not live beyond 1 day, owing to which it is called the Ephemeroptera. 71. The Roman lawyer Cicero wrote philosophically of them in his Tusculan Disputations. Aristotle saith there is a kind of insect near the river Hypanis, which runs from a certain part of Europe into the Pontus, whose life consists but of 1 day. Those that die at the 8th hour die in full age. Those who die when the sun sets are very old, especially when the days are at the longest. Compare our longest life with eternity, and we shall be found almost as short-lived as those little animals. 72. In his 1789 book The Natural History and Antiquities of Selborne, Gilbert White described in the entry 4, June 10, 1771, how myriads of mayflies appear for the first time on the Alresford stream. The air was crowded with them, and the surface of the water covered. Large trouts sucked them in as they lay struggling on the surface of the stream, unable to rise till their wings were dried. Their motions are very peculiar, up and down for so many yards almost in a perpendicular line. 73. The mayfly has come to symbolize the transitoriness and brevity of life. 74. The English poet George Crabbe, known to have been interested in insects. 75. Compared the brief life of a newspaper with that of mayflies, both being known as ephemera. 76. Things that live for a day. 77. In shoals the hours their constant numbers bring like insects waking to advancing spring, which take their rise from grubs obscene that lie in shallow pools, or thence ascend the sky. Such are these base ephemeras, so born to die before the next revolving morn. George Crabbe, The Newspaper, 1785. The theme of brief life is echoed in the artist Douglas Florian's 1998 poem, The Mayfly. 78. The American poet laureate Richard Wilbur's 2005 poem, Mayflies, includes the lines, I saw from unseen pools a mist of flies, in their quadrillions rise, and animate a ragged patch of glow, with sudden glittering. 79. Another literary reference to mayflies is seen in the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the earliest surviving great works of literature. The briefness of Gilgamesh's life is compared to that of the adult mayfly. 80. In Szeged, Hungary, mayflies are celebrated in a monument near the Belvarosi Bridge, the work of local sculptor Pal Farkas, depicting the courtship dance of mayflies. 81. The American playwright David Ives wrote a short comedic play, Time Flies, in 2001, as to what two mayflies might discuss during their 1 day of existence. 82. In Fly Fishing. Fishing flies from Charles and Richard Balker's Art of Angling 18542. Blue Dun, Mayfly. 3. March Brown, Mayfly. Mayflies are the primary source of models for artificial flies, hooks tied with colored materials such as threads and feathers, used in fly fishing. 4. These are based on different life cycle stages of mayflies. For example, the flies known as emergers in North America are designed by fly fishermen to resemble Subimago mayflies, and are intended to lure freshwater trout. 83. In 1983, Patrick McCafferty recorded that artificial flies had been based on 36 genera of North American mayfly, from a total of 63 western species and 103 eastern, central species. A large number of these species have common names among fly fishermen, who need to develop a substantial knowledge of mayfly, habitat, distribution, seasonality, morphology and behavior, in order to match precisely the look and movements of the insects that the local trout are expecting. 4. Isaac Walton describes the use of mayflies for catching trout in his 1653 book The Complete Angler. For example, he names the green drake for use as a natural fly, and duns, mayfly subimagos, as artificial flies. These include, for example, the great dun and the great blue dun. In February, the whitish dun. In March, the whirling dun and the yellow dun. In April, the green drake, the little yellow mayfly, and the gray drake. In May, and the black blue dun. In July. 84. Nymph or wet fly. Fishing was restored to popularity on the chalk streams of England by G.E.M. Skewes with his 1910 book Manure Tactics of the Chalk Stream. In the book, Skewes discusses the use of duns to catch trout. 85, 86, 87. The Mark Brown is probably the most famous of all British mayflies, having been copied by anglers to catch trout for over 500 years. 88, 3. Some English public houses beside trout streams such as the River Test in Hampshire are named the Mayfly. 89, 90, 91. As a spectacle. The hatch of the giant mayfly Palangania longicauda on the Tisa and Maros rivers in Hungary and Serbia, known as Tisa blooming, is a tourist attraction. 92. The 2014 hatch of the large black-brown mayfly Hexagonia bilinida on the Mississippi River in the U.S. was imaged on weather radar. The swarm flew up to 760 meters, 2,500 feet above the ground near La Crosse, Wisconsin, creating a radar signature that resembled a significant rain storm, and the mass of dead insects covering roads, cars and buildings caused a slimy mess. 93. During the weekend of the 13th to the 14th of June 2015, a large swarm of mayflies caused several vehicular accidents on the Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge, carrying Pennsylvania Route 462 across the Susquehanna River between Columbia and Wrightsville, Pennsylvania. The bridge had to be closed to traffic twice during that period due to impaired visibility and obstructions posed by piles of dead insects. 94. As food. Mayflies are consumed in several cultures and are estimated to contain the most raw protein content of any edible insect by dry weight. In Malawi, kungu, a paste of mayflies, Canis kungu, and mosquitoes is made into a cake for eating. Adult mayflies are collected and eaten in many parts of China and Japan. Near Lake Victoria, Pobola mayflies are collected, dried and preserved for use in food preparations. 95. As a name for ships and aircraft. HMA number 1 mayfly emerging from her floating shed at Vickers Yard at Barrow in Furnison. Mayfly. HMA number 1 mayfly emerging from her floating shed at Vickers Yard at Barrow in Furnison. The 24th of September 1911. Mayfly was the crew's nickname for His Majesty's Airship No. 1, an aerial scout airship built by Vickers but wrecked by strong winds in 1911 before her trial flights. 96. Two vessels of the Royal Navy were named HMS Mayfly, a torpedo boat launched in January 1907, 97, and a Fly-class river gunboat constructed in sections at Yarrow in 1915. 98. The Seddon Mayfly, which was constructed in 1908, was an aircraft that was unsuccessful in early flight. The first aircraft designed by a woman, Lillian Bland, was titled the Bland Mayfly. 80. Other human uses. In pre-1950s France, choupe de man was obtained by pressing mayflies into cakes and using them as bird food and fish bait. 25. From an economic standpoint, mayflies also provide fisheries with an excellent diet for fish. 80. Mayflies could find uses in the biomedical, pharmaceutical, and cosmetic industries. Their exoskeleton contains chitin, which has applications in these industries. 80. Research on genome expression in the mayfly Cloendipterum has provided ideas on the evolution of the insect wing and giving support to the so-called gill theory, which suggests that the ancestral insect wing may have evolved from larval gills of aquatic insects like mayflies. 99. Mayfly larvae do not survive in polluted aquatic habitats and, thus, have been chosen as bioindicators, markers of water quality in ecological assessments. 100. In marketing, Nike produced a line of running shoes in 2003 titled Mayfly. The shoes were designed with a wing-venation pattern like the mayfly and were also said to have a finite lifetime. 80. The telecommunication company Vodafone featured mayflies in a 2006 branding campaign, telling consumers to make the most of now. 80. Notes. A. Clutius is the Latinized form of Outgert Clut, 1578-1636. B. Mayflies such as Hexagonia use forelegs for walking. The male's front pair are specialized as claspers to hold the female during the mating flight. Aristotle also describes the mayfly in History of Animals, 552b. Phasmatodea. The Phasmatodea, also known as Phasmida or Phasmatoptera, are an order of insects whose members are variously known as stick insects, stick bugs, walking sticks, stick animals, or bug sticks. They are also occasionally referred to as devil's darning needles, although this name is shared by both dragonflies and craneflies. 1. They can be generally referred to as phasmatodines, phasmids, or ghost insects, with phasmids in the family Felidae called leaf insects, leaf bugs, walking leaves, or bug leaves. The group's name is derived from the ancient Greek phasma, meaning an apparition or phantom, referring to their resemblance to vegetation while in fact being animals. Their natural camouflage makes them difficult for predators to detect. Still, many species have one of several secondary lines of defense in the form of startle displays, spines or toxic secretions. Stick insects from the genera Phryganistria, Ctenomorpha, and Phobedicus include the world's longest insects. Phasmid in marginal forest on a pitcher plant. Philippines. Members of the order are found on all continents except Antarctica, but they are most abundant in the tropics and subtropics. They are herbivorous, with many species living unobtrusively in the tree canopy. They have an incomplete metamorphosis life cycle with 3 stages: egg, nymph and adult. Many phasmids are parthenogenic, and do not require fertilized eggs for female offspring to be produced. In hotter climates, they may breed all year round. In more temperate regions, the females lay eggs in the autumn before dying, and the new generation hatches in the spring. Some species have wings and can disperse by flying, while others are more restricted. Phobedicus serotypes. Female Phobedicus chani, the world's second longest insect. This species grows to a total length of 56.7 centimeters, 22.3 in, front legs fully extended, and body length of 35.7 centimeters, 14.1 in. 2. Phasmids vary greatly in size, with females typically growing larger than males of the same species. 3. Males of the smallest species, such as Time macrystinae, reach about 2 centimeters, 0.8 in, long. 4. While females of the longest, an undescribed species informally known as Phryganistria, chinensis, is up to 64 centimeters, 25 in total length, including outstretched legs. This makes it the world's longest insect. 5. The heaviest species of phasmid is likely to be Heteropteryx dilatata, the females of which may weigh as much as 65 grams, 2.3 ounces. 6. Some phasmids have cylindrical stick-like shapes, while others have flattened, leaf-like shapes. Many species are wingless, or have reduced wings. 7. The Phasmatodea. Temporal range. Painacaria hispanica. Scientific classification domain: Eukaryota kingdom, Animalia phylum, Arthropoda class, Insecta unranked Dicondylia subclass, Pterygoda infraclass, Neoptera cohort, Polyneoptera. Order: Phasmatodea. Jacobson and Bianchi, 1902. Subgroups: Mantoidea Mantoidea. Description. Thorax is long in the winged species, since it houses the flight muscles, and is typically much shorter in the wingless forms. Where present, the first pair of wings is narrow and cornified, hardened, while the hind wings are broad, with straight veins along their length and multiple cross veins. Their wing venation is unique among insects. 8. The body is often further modified to resemble vegetation, with ridges resembling leaf veins, bark-like tubercles, and other forms of camouflage. A few species, such as Carassius morosus, are even able to change their pigmentation to match their surroundings. The mouthparts project out from the head. Chewing mandibles are uniform across species. The legs are typically long and slender, and some species are capable of limb autotomy, appendage shedding. 7. Phasmids have long, slender antennae, as long as or longer than the rest of the body in some species. Head of a female Ecstatosoma. All phasmids possess compound eyes, but ocelli, light-sensitive organs, are only known from the 5 groups Lanciocercata, Necrocyaneae, Pseudophasmatidae, Palliphidae and Felidae. Of these only the first 3 groups have females with ocelli, which like the wings seems to have re-evolved from ancestors that had lost them. 9. Phasmids have an impressive visual system that allows them to perceive significant detail even in dim conditions, which suits their typically nocturnal lifestyle. They are born equipped with tiny compound eyes with a limited number of facets. As phasmids grow through successive molts, the number of facets in each eye is increased along with the number of photoreceptor cells. The sensitivity of the adult eye is at least tenfold that of the nymph in its first instar developmental stage. As the eye grows more complex, the mechanisms to adapt to dark light changes are also enhanced. Eyes in dark conditions evidence fewer screening pigments, which would block light, than during the daytime, and changes in the width of the retinal layer to adapt to changes in available light are significantly more pronounced in adults. The larger size of the adult insect's eyes makes them more prone to radiation damage. This explains why fully grown individuals are mostly nocturnal. Lessened sensitivity to light in the newly emerged insects helps them to escape from the leaf litter wherein they are hatched and move upward into the more brightly illuminated foliage. Young stick insects are diurnal daytime feeders and move around freely, expanding their foraging range. 10. Phasmatodea equals Phasmatodea. Stick insects have 2 types of pads on their legs, sticky, toe pads, and non-stick, heel pads, a little further up their legs. The heel pads are covered in microscopic hairs which create strong friction at low pressure, enabling them to grip without having to be peeled energetically from the surface at each step. The sticky toe pads are used to provide additional grip when climbing but are not used on a level surface. 11. Distribution. Phasmatodea can be found all over the world except for the Antarctic and Patagonia. They are most numerous in the tropics and subtropics. The greatest diversity is found in Southeast Asia and South America, followed by Australia, Central America, and the southern United States. 12. Over 300 species are known from the island of Borneo, making it the richest place in the world for Phasmatodea. 13. Anti-predator adaptations. A pair of camouflaged dares ulula. Phasmatodea species exhibit mechanisms for defense from predators that prevent an attack from happening in the first place, primary defense, and defenses that are deployed after an attack has been initiated, secondary defense. Phasmatodea species exhibit mechanisms for defense from predators that prevent an attack from happening in the first place, primary defense, and defenses that are deployed after an attack has been initiated, secondary defense. 14. The defense mechanism most readily identifiable with Phasmatodea is camouflage, in the form of a plant mimicry. Most phasmids are known for effectively replicating the forms of sticks and leaves, and the bodies of some species, such as Pseudodiacanthum aclati and Bactridodma centaurum, are covered in mossy or lichenous outgrowths that supplement their disguise. Remaining absolutely stationary enhances their inconspicuousness. 14. Some species have the ability to change color as their surroundings shift. Bostra scabrinota, Timma californica. In a further behavioral adaptation to supplement crypsis, a number of species perform a rocking motion where the body is swayed from side to side. This is thought to mimic the movement of leaves or twigs swaying in the breeze. 15. 16. Another method by which stick insects avoid predation and resemble twigs is by entering a cataleptic state, where the insect adopts a rigid, motionless posture that can be maintained for a long period. 17. The nocturnal feeding habits of adults also help Phasmatodea to remain concealed from predators. 17. Hindwing diametic, startle, display of a male Paraphasma schulti. Defensive pose of a subadult female Haniella dahani. In a seemingly different method of defense, many species of Phasmatodea seek to startle the encroaching predator by flashing bright colors that are normally hidden, and making a loud noise. 18. When disturbed on a branch or foliage, some species, while dropping to the undergrowth to escape, will open their wings momentarily during free fall to display bright colors that disappear when the insect lands. Others will maintain their display for up to 20 minutes, hoping to frighten the predator and convey the appearance of a larger size. Some, such as Pteronoxylus spinulosus, accompany the visual display with the noise made by rubbing together parts of the wings. 18. Some species, such as the young nymphs of Ecstatosoma, have been observed to curl the abdomen upwards over the body and head to resemble ants or scorpions in an act of mimicry, another defense mechanism by which the insects avoid becoming prey. The eggs of some species such as Diapheromera ephemerata have fleshy projections resembling eliosomes, fleshy structures sometimes attached to seeds, that attract ants. When the egg has been carried to the colony, the adult ant feeds the eliosome to a larva while the phasmid egg is left to develop in the recesses of the nest in a protected environment. 19. When threatened, some phasmids that are equipped with femoral spines on the metathoracic legs, Oncotophasma martini, Eurycantha calcarata, Eurycantha horrida, Diapheromera velliae, Diapheromera cabellii, Heteropteryx dilatata, respond by curling the abdomen upward and repeatedly swinging the legs together, grasping at the threat. If the menace is caught, the spines can, in humans, draw blood and inflict considerable pain. 15. Some species are equipped with a pair of glands at the anterior front edge of the prothorax that enables the insect to release defensive secretions, including chemical compounds of varying effect. Some produce distinct odors, and others can cause a stinging, burning sensation in the eyes and mouth of a predator. 20. The spray often contains pungent-smelling volatile metabolites, previously thought to be concentrated in the insect from its plant food sources. However, it now seems more likely that the insect manufactures its own defensive chemicals. 21. Additionally, the chemistry of the defense spray from at least one species, Anisomorpha buprestoides, has been shown to vary. 21. Based on the insect's life stage or the particular population it is part of. 22. This chemical spray variation also corresponds with regionally specific color forms in populations in Florida, with the different variants having distinct behaviors. 23. The spray from one species, Megacrania nigrosulfurea, is used as a treatment for skin infections by a tribe in Papua New Guinea because of its antibacterial constituents. 24. Some species employ a shorter-range defensive secretion, where individuals bleed reflexively through the joints of their legs and the seams of the exoskeleton when bothered, allowing the blood hemolymph, which contains distasteful compounds, to discourage predators. Another ploy is to regurgitate their stomach contents when harassed, repelling potential predators. 25. Life cycle. Mating pair of Anisomorpha buprestoides. The life cycle of the stick insect begins when the female deposits her eggs through one of these methods of oviposition. She will either flick her egg to the ground by a movement of the ovipositor or her entire abdomen, carefully place the eggs in the axils of the host plant, bury them in small pits in the soil, or stick the eggs to a substrate, usually a stem or leaf of the food plant. A single female lays from 100 to 1,200 eggs after mating, depending on the species. 15. Many species of phasmids are parthenogenic, meaning the females lay eggs without needing to mate with males to produce offspring. Eggs from virgin mothers are entirely female and hatch into nymphs that are exact copies of their mothers. Stick insect species that are the product of hybridization are usually obligate parthenogons. 26. But non-hybrids are facultative parthenogons, meaning they retain the ability to mate and their sexual behavior depends on the presence and abundance of males. 27. Phasmatodea eggs resemble seeds in shape and size and have hard shells. They have a lid-like structure called an operculum at the anterior pole, from which the nymph emerges during hatching. The eggs vary in the length of time before they hatch, which varies from 13 to more than 70 days, with the average around 20 to 30 days. 15. Some species, particularly those from temperate regions, undergo diapause, where development is delayed during the winter months. Diapause is initiated by the effect of short day lengths on the egg-laying adults or can be genetically determined. Diapause is broken by exposure to the cold of winter, causing the eggs to hatch during the following spring. Among species of economic importance such as Diapheromera ephemerata, diapause results in the development of 2-year cycles of outbreaks. 28. Eggs of various phasmid species, not to scale. Many species' eggs bear a fatty, knob-like capitulum that caps the operculum. This structure attracts ants because of its resemblance to the elaeosome of some plant seeds that are sought-after food sources for ant larvae, and usually contribute to ensuring seed dispersal by ants, a form of ant-plant mutualism called myrmecochory. The ants take the egg into their nest underground and can remove the capitulum to feed to their larva without harming the phasmid embryo. There, the egg hatches and the young nymph, which initially resembles an ant, another instance of mimicry among Phasmatodea, eventually emerges from the nest and climbs the nearest tree to safety in the foliage. 15. The eggs of stick insects have a coating of calcium oxalate which makes them survive unscathed in the digestive tract of birds. It has been suggested that birds may have a role in the dispersal of parthenogenetic stick insect species, especially to islands. 29. The Phasmatodea life cycle is hemimetabolous, proceeding through a series of several nymphal instars. Once emerged, a nymph will eat its cast skin. Adulthood is reached for most species after several months and many molts. The lifespan of Phasmatodea varies by species, but ranges from a few months to up to 3 years. 30. Ecology. Phasmids are herbivorous, feeding mostly on the leaves of trees and shrubs, and a conspicuous component of many neotropical systems. Phasmatodea has been postulated as dominant light gap herbivores there. Their role in the forest ecosystem is considered important by many scientists, who stress the significance of light gaps in maintaining succession and resilience in climax forests. The presence of phasmids lowers the net production of early successional plants by consuming them and then enriches the soil by defecation. This enables the late succession plants to become established and encourages the recycling of the tropical forest. 31. Phasmatodea are recognized as injurious to forest and shade trees by defoliation. The life cycle of the stick insect begins when the female deposits her eggs through one of these methods of oviposition. Ecology. Phasmids are herbivorous, feeding mostly on the leaves of trees and shrubs, and a conspicuous component of many neotropical systems. Phasmatodea has been postulated as dominant light gap herbivores there. Their role in the forest ecosystem is considered important by many scientists, who stress the significance of light gaps in maintaining succession and resilience in climax forests. The presence of phasmids lowers the net production of early successional plants by consuming them and then enriches the soil by defecation. This enables the late succession plants to become established and encourages the recycling of the tropical forest. 31. Phasmatodea are recognized as injurious to forest and shade trees by defoliation. Didymuria violescens, Podocanthus wilkinsoni and C. tenomorphodes tessellatus in Australia, Diapheromera ephemerata in North America and Graphi cruani in coconut plantations in the South Pacific all occur in outbreaks of economic importance. 32. Indeed, in the American South, as well as in Michigan and Wisconsin, the walking stick is a significant problem in parks and recreation sites, where it consumes the foliage of oaks and other hardwoods. Severe outbreaks of the walking stick, Diapheromera ephemerata, have occurred in the Washita Mountains of Arkansas and Oklahoma. The insects eat the entire leaf blade. In the event of heavy outbreaks, entire stands of trees can be completely denuded. 33. Continuous defoliation over several years often results in the death of the tree. Because these species cannot fly, infestations are typically contained to a radius of a few hundred yards. Nevertheless, the damage incurred to parks in the region is often costly. Control efforts in the case of infestations have typically involved chemical pesticides. Ground fires are effective at killing eggs but have obvious disadvantages. 33. In New South Wales, research has investigated the feasibility of controlling stick insects using natural enemies such as parasitic wasps Myrmecomyces spp. 34. Taxonomy. True leaf insects, like this Phyllium bilobatum, belong to the family Phyllidae. The classification of the Phasmatodea is complex and the relationships between its members are poorly understood. 35. Furthermore, there is much confusion over the ordinal name. Phasmida is preferred by many authors, though it is incorrectly formed. Phasmatodea is correctly formed, and is widely accepted. 36. However, Brock and Marshall argue. 37. Phasmida is the oldest and simplest name, first used by Leach in 1815 in Brewster's Edinburgh Encyclopedia, Volume 9, page 119, and widely used in major entomological textbooks, dictionaries and many scientific papers and books on phasmids. As there is no compulsion to select the grammatically correct name, which some argue is Phasmatodea Jacobson and Bianchi, 1902 selection of a long-established and simple name is reasonable, although the probability of persuading all colleagues to agree on the use of Phasmida is unlikely. The order Phasmatodea is sometimes considered to be related to other orders, including the Blattodea, Mantoidea, Blattodea, Mantophasmatodea and Dermaptera, but the affiliations are uncertain and the grouping, sometimes referred to as Orthopteroidea, may be paraphyletic, not have a common ancestor, and hence invalid in the traditional circumscription set of attributes that all members have. Phasmatodea, once considered a suborder of Orthoptera, is now treated as an order of its own. 38. Anatomical features separate them as a monophyletic, descended from a common ancestor, group from the Orthoptera. One is the instance among all species of Phasmatodea of a pair of exocrine glands inside the prothorax used for defense. Another is the presence of a specially formed sclerite, hardened plate, called a vomer, which allows the male to clasp the female during mating. 39. The order is divided into 2, or sometimes 3, suborders. 39. The traditional division is into the suborder groups Anereolatae and Areolatae, which are distinguished according to whether the insect has sunken areola, or circular areas, on the underside of the apices of the middle and hind tibiae, areolate, or not anereolate. However, the phylogenetic, evolutionary, relationships between the different groups is poorly resolved. The monophyly of Anereolatae has been questioned and the morphology of the eggs may be a better basis for classification. 36. An alternative is to divide the Phasmatodea into 3 suborders: Agathomerodea, 1 genus and 8 species; Timotodea, 1 genus and 21 species; and Euphasmatodea, or Veraphasmatodea, for the remaining taxa. 40. This division is, however, not fully supported by the molecular studies, which recover Agathomerodea as nested within Euphasmatodea rather than being the sister group of the latter group. 41, 42, 43. Recent taxonomic treatments recognize 2 suborders. 43. With Agathomeridea placed in Pseudophasmatoidea within Euphasmatodea. 44. And Agathomerodea treated as nomen dubium. 45. While suggestions have been made that various insects extending back to the Permian epoch represent stem group Phasmatodines, the earliest unambiguous members of the group are the Susumanioidea, which first appeared during the Middle Jurassic, and usually have 2 large pairs of wings. Modern Phasmatodines first appeared during the early Cretaceous, with the currently oldest known being Arorhiphasma from the early Cretaceous Aptian Crotto Formation of Brazil, around 113 million years old, which can be confidently assigned to the Euphasmatodea. 46. The earliest leaf insect Phyllianae fossil is Eophyllium messelensis from the 47 million year old Eocene of Messel, Germany. In size and cryptic, leaf-like body form, it closely resembles extant species, suggesting that the behavior of the group has changed little since that time. 47 over 3,500 species have been described, with many more yet to be described both in museum collections and in the wild. 48-43. Suborders number of species defining notes image. Time Mantoidea 21-49 considered earliest to branch from phylogenetic tree. Time Dorothy. Phasmida 3514 50 vast majority of extant species. Phasma gigas. Acanthoxyla procina or the prickly stick insect, native to New Zealand, is believed to reproduce by parthenogenesis. No males were recorded 51 until 2016 when a single male was discovered in the UK where this lineage has been introduced. 52. One Australian species, the Lord Howe Island stick insect, is now listed as critically endangered. It was believed extinct until its rediscovery on the rock known as Ball's Pyramid. 53. An effort is underway in Australia to rear this species in captivity. Select species. The best known of the stick insects is the Indian or laboratory stick insect Carazius morosus. This insect grows to roughly 10 centimeters, 4 in, and reproduces parthenogenically, and although males have been recorded, they are rare. 54. Fossils of the extinct genus and species Eoprephasma hitchensi have been recovered from Epresian age sediments in the U.S. state of Washington and British Columbia, Canada. The species is one of the youngest members of the stem phasmatodine group Mantoidea. 55. In Europe there are 17 species of stick insects described, belonging to the genera Bacillus clinopsis, Leptinia and Painacaria. There are also a few other species that live in Europe but are introduced, as for example with a couple of species of Acanthoxyla, which are native to New Zealand but are present in southern England. In the Iberian Peninsula there are currently described 13 species and several subspecies. Their life cycle is annual, living only during the hottest months, especially genera Leptinia and Painacaria, which usually means late spring to early autumn. Phylum sp. From the Western Ghats. Clinopsis gallica. Ctenomorpha marginipennis. Leptinia hispanica. Video of a walking phasmid. Phasmids in Europe. Behavior. Stick insects, like praying mantises, show rocking behavior in which the insect makes rhythmic, repetitive, side-to-side movements. The common interpretation of this behavior's function is it enhances crypsis by mimicking vegetation moving in the wind. These movements may also be important in allowing the insects to discriminate objects from the background by relative motion. Rocking movements by these generally sedentary insects may replace flying or running as a source of relative motion to help them discern objects in the foreground. 56. Mating behavior in Phasmatodea is impressive because of the extraordinarily long duration of some pairings. A record among insects, the stick insect Necrotius sparaxis, found in India, is sometimes coupled for 79 days at a time. It is not uncommon for this species to assume the mating posture for days or weeks on end, and among some species Diapheromeravelliae and Decavalliae pairing can last 3 to 136 hours in captivity. 57. Overt displays of aggression between males over mates suggests that extended pairing may have evolved to guard females from sperm competition. Fighting between competing males has been observed in the species Decavalliae and Decavalliae. 58. During these encounters, the approach of a challenger causes the existing mate to manipulate the female's abdomen, which he has clasped by means of the clasping organ, or vomer, down upon itself to block the site of attachment. Occasionally, the consort will strike out at the competitor with the midfemora, which are equipped with an enlarged and hooked spine in both sexes that can draw the blood of the opponent when they are flexed against the body to puncture the integument. 58. Usually, a strong hold on the female's abdomen and blows to the intruder are enough to deter the unwanted competition, but occasionally the competitor has been observed to employ a sneaky tactic to inseminate the female. While the first mate is engaged in feeding and is forced to vacate the dorsal position, the intruder can clasp the female's abdomen and insert his genitalia. If he is discovered, the males will enter into combat wherein they lean backward, both clasped to the female's abdomen, and freely suspended, engage in rapid, sweeping blows with their forelegs in a manner similar to boxing. Usually, when the intruder gains attachment to the female's abdomen, these conflicts result in the displacement of the original mate. 58. Carazius morosus is often kept as a pet by schools and individuals. Lengthy pairings have also been described in terms of a defensive alliance. When cleaved together, the pair is more unwieldy for predators to handle. Also, the chemical defenses, secretions, reflex bleeding, regurgitation of the individual stick insect are enhanced when two are paired. Females survive attacks by predators significantly better when pairing, largely because the dorsal position of the male functions well as a shield. This could indicate that manipulation by females is taking place. If females accept ejaculate at a slow rate, for instance, the males are forced to remain in copulo for longer and the female's chances of survival are enhanced. Also, evolution could have simply favored males that remained attached to their females longer, since females are often less abundant than males and represent a valuable prize, so for the lucky male, even the sacrifice of his own life to preserve his offspring with the female may be worthwhile. Lengthy pairings have also been described in terms of a defensive alliance. When cleaved together, the pair is more unwieldy for predators to handle. Also, the chemical defenses, secretions, reflex bleeding, regurgitation of the individual stick insect are enhanced when two are paired. Females survive attacks by predators significantly better when pairing, largely because the dorsal position of the male functions well as a shield. This could indicate that manipulation by females is taking place. If females accept ejaculate at a slow rate, for instance, the males are forced to remain in copulo for longer and the female's chances of survival are enhanced. Also, evolution could have simply favored males that remained attached to their females longer, since females are often less abundant than males and represent a valuable prize, so for the lucky male, even the sacrifice of his own life to preserve his offspring with the female may be worthwhile. Sexual dimorphism in the species, where females are usually significantly larger than the males, may have evolved due to the fitness advantage accrued to males that can remain attached to the female, thereby blocking competitors, without severely impeding her movement. 57. Certain Phasmatodea, such as Anisomorpha buprestoides, sometimes form aggregations. These insects have been observed to congregate during the day in a concealed location, going their separate ways at nightfall to forage, and returning to their refuge before dawn. Such behavior has been little studied, and how the insects find their way back is unknown. 25. In human culture. Painting of stick insects by Mary Ann North, 1870s. Stick insects are often kept in captivity. Almost 300 species have been reared in laboratories or as pets. 59. The most commonly kept is the Indian, or laboratory, stick insect, Carazius morosus, which eats vegetables such as lettuce. 60. Droppings of the stick insect Eurycnema versirubra, Serval, 1838 equals Eurycnema versifasciata, fed with specific plants are made into a medicinal tea by Malaysian Chinese to treat ailments. 61. The botanical illustrator Mary Ann North, 1830-1890, painted leaf and stick insects that she saw on her travels in the 1870s. 62. Tribesmen in Sarawak eat phasmids and their eggs. 63. Some indigenous people of the D'Entrecasteaux Islands have traditionally made fishhooks from the legs of certain phasmids. 64. Research has been conducted to analyze the stick insect method of walking and apply this to the engineering of six-legged walking robots. Instead of one centralized control system, it seems each leg of a phasmid operates independently. 65. In Australia and Hawaii, many kinds of stick insects are kept as exotic pets, including the strong, Goliath, spiny, and children's. The custom of keeping stick insects as pets was probably brought to Australia by either Chinese, Japanese, or Vietnamese immigrants during World War II, the Korean War, or the Vietnam War. Stick insects have been kept as pets since the time of the Han Dynasty. They were kept inside bird cages, and people in the Far East believe they bring good luck and fortune, just like crickets. 66. The video game Disco Elysium includes a storyline centered around a giant stick insect and cryptid called the Insulindian Phasmid. A clip of a stick insect swaying back and forth, in a manner akin to dancing, became an internet meme in 2020 as a bait and switch. Blattodea. Blattodea is an order of insects that contains cockroaches and termites. 3. Formerly, termites were considered a separate order, Isoptera, but genetic and molecular evidence suggests they evolved from within the cockroach lineage, cladistically making them cockroaches as well. 4. The Blattodea and the mantis order Mantoidea are now all considered part of the superorder Dictyoptera. Blattodea includes approximately 4,400 species of cockroach in almost 500 genera, and about 3,000 species of termite in around 300 genera. Termites are pale-colored, soft-bodied eusocial insects that live in colonies, whereas cockroaches are darker-colored, often brown, sclerotized, segmented insects. Within the colony, termites have a caste system, with a pair of mature reproductives, the king and the queen, and numerous sterile workers and soldiers. Cockroaches are not colonial but do have a tendency to aggregate and may be considered pre-social, as all adults are capable of breeding. Other similarities between the two groups include various social behaviors, trail following, kin recognition, and methods of communication. Phylogeny and evolution. Cladistic analysis of 5 DNA sequences in 107 species representing all the termite subfamilies, all 6 cockroach families, including 22 of the 29 subfamilies, and 5 of the 15 mantis families, as outgroups showed that the termites are nested within the cockroaches, and that the Cryptocercidae is a sister group to the termites. The mantids were shown to be the sister group to Blattodea. 4. Cryptocercus also shares characteristics such as species of gut bacteria with the termites. 5. The cockroach families Lamproblattidae and Trionicidae are not shown but are placed within the superfamily Blattoidea. The cockroach families Corydidae and Ectobiidae were previously known as the Polyphagidae and Blattellidae. 6. 7. The evolutionary relationships of the Blattodea cockroaches and termites based on Eglinton, Beccaloni and Inward, 2007, and modified by Evangelista et al. 2019, are shown in the cladogram. 8-9. The cladogram shows the family Alienopteridae, originally assigned to its own order, Alienoptera, a sister to Mantoidea, while it was reassigned to the extinct Blattodea superfamily Eumenocoelioidea by Bersansky et al. 10. A more recent analysis places Alienopteridae and Eumenocoelidae as sister taxa within Dictyoptera, and not within Blattodea. 11. Dictyoptera. Manipulatoridae, extinct. Alienopteridae, extinct. Mantoidea, mantises. Over 4,000 species of cockroaches are found in every corner of the globe, with each continent having its own indigenous species. Most of these are omnivores or detritivores and live in a range of habitats such as among leaf litter, in rotting wood, in thick vegetation, in crevices, in cavities beneath bark, under logs and among debris. Some are arboreal, some live in caves and some are aquatic. 12. A small number of species have taken to living in close proximity to humans in Blattaria. Temporal range. Stem groups present since late Carboniferous. 2. Domino cockroach Thuria pedivariana. Scientific classification domain. Eukaryota kingdom. Animalia phylum. Arthropoda class. Insecta superorder. Dictyoptera order. Blattaria. Wadenwall, 1882. Superfamilies. Coridioidea. Blabberoidea. Blattoidea includes termites. Synonyms. Diversity. Buildings have been transported around the world by them and are regarded as pests. 13. Although some species harbor symbionts in their guts which facilitate cellulose digestion, many species also produce enzymes to digest cellulose independent of the symbionts. 14. Over 3,000 species of termite are found in all the continents except Antarctica. The greatest diversity is found in Africa and relatively few species inhabit Europe and North America. The greatest diversity is found in Africa and relatively few species inhabit Europe and North America. They are also detrivores and many species eat wood, having specialized guts with symbiotic protozoa to digest the cellulose. Termites have soft bodies and keep out of sight as far as possible. They can loosely be subdivided into dampwood, treewood and subterranean types. In general, dampwood termites inhabit coniferous forests, treewood termites inhabit hardwood forests and subterranean termites live in a wide variety of habitats. 15. Termites are eusocial insects that live in colonies. They have a caste system, with a king and queen in each colony and many non-reproductive workers. The workers forage for food which they bring back to the colony to feed the reproductives and the developing young. 16. Cockroaches are also social insects but do not live in colonies, and all adults are able to reproduce. Some species form aggregations, others show an inclination to aggregate, and some exhibit parental care of their offspring. 17. Cockroaches and termites have striking similarities in behavior which they likely inherited from their common ancestor. These include an attraction to warm and humid places, thigmotaxis, burrowing, substrate manipulation, hygienic behavior, food sharing, cannibalism, excretion behavior, vibrational communication, kin recognition, trail following, allogrooming, care of the brood, cropping of antennae and certain mating behaviors. 18. In some of these behaviors, there are marked similarities between termites and juvenile, but not adult, cockroaches. During the evolution of eusociality, the individuals need to share a desire to group together. Juvenile cockroaches have a tendency to aggregate while adults often compete aggressively with each other for space and resources. Similarly, grooming and being groomed is common in termite colonies but allogrooming is not a behavior generally engaged in by cockroaches although individuals groom themselves. 18. An exception to this is the cockroach cryptocircus, which seems to be more closely related to the termites than to other cockroaches. 19. Here juveniles groom each other and also groom adults. 18. Blattaria cockroaches only. Characteristics. Both buildings have been transported around the world by them and are regarded as pests. 13. Although some species harbor symbionts in their guts which facilitate cellulose digestion, many species also produce enzymes to digest cellulose independent of the symbionts. 14. Over 3,000 species of termite are found in all the continents except Antarctica. The greatest diversity is found in Africa and relatively few species inhabit Europe and North America. They are also detrivores and many species eat wood, having specialized guts with symbiotic protozoa to digest the cellulose. Termites have soft bodies and keep out of sight as far as possible. They can loosely be subdivided into dampwood, treewood and subterranean types. In general, dampwood termites inhabit coniferous forests, treewood termites inhabit hardwood forests and subterranean termites live in a wide variety of habitats. 15. Termites are eusocial insects that live in colonies. They have a caste system, with a king and queen in each colony and many non-reproductive workers. The workers forage for food which they bring back to the colony to feed the reproductives and the developing young. 16. Cockroaches are also social insects but do not live in colonies, and all adults are able to reproduce. Some species form aggregations, others show an inclination to aggregate, and some exhibit parental care of their offspring. 17. Cockroaches and termites have striking similarities in behavior which they likely inherited from their common ancestor. These include an attraction to warm and humid places, thigmotaxis, burrowing, substrate manipulation, hygienic behavior, food sharing, cannibalism, excretion behavior, vibrational communication, kin recognition, trail following, allogrooming, care of the brood, cropping of antennae and certain mating behaviors. 18. In some of these behaviors, there are marked similarities between termites and juvenile, but not adult, cockroaches. During the evolution of eusociality, the individuals need to share a desire to group together. Juvenile cockroaches have a tendency to aggregate while adults often compete aggressively with each other for space and resources. Similarly, grooming and being groomed is common in termite colonies but allogrooming is not a behavior generally engaged in by cockroaches although individuals groom themselves. 18. An exception to this is the cockroach cryptocircus, which seems to be more closely related to the termites than to other cockroaches. 19. Here juveniles groom each other and also groom adults. 18. Blattaria cockroaches only. Characteristics. Both groups are also affected by their social environments. A single termite, kept alone, has a significantly decreased level of vigor and a shorter lifespan than when two are kept together. An isolated cockroach nymph may grow at less than half the rate of grouped individuals, and has a poorer life expectancy. 18. Both termites and cockroaches engage in coprophagy, the consumption of fecal pellets. Adult termite workers forage and bring food back to the nest where they pass it to the reproductives and young either by mouth or by anus, providing the whole of their nutritional needs in this manner. Young cockroaches are ineffective foragers, seldom straying from their hiding places, and obtain much of their nourishment from eating the fecal pellets of larger individuals. From these they acquire the microbial flora that helps them to digest their food. 18. A single cockroach family, the Cryptocercidae, and one primitive species of termite, Mastoderms darwiniensis, share such characteristics as the segmental origin of certain female reproductive structures, and the fact that both deposit their eggs in the oothecae that are typical of cockroaches. 20. Cockroaches. American cockroach. Arthropods similar to living cockroaches dominated the insect communities of the Carboniferous period. Modern crown group cockroaches radiated from them by the middle of the Mesozoic. 21. With the first appearance of the extant family Chorididae during the late Jurassic. 1. This group of insects are nocturnal, only foraging for food and water at night. They are not considered eusocial because their populations are not divided into different caste systems. However, they are still social creatures and can live in groups with over 1 million individuals. 22. The cockroach is flattened dorsolaterally and is roughly oval with a shield-like plate, the pronotum, covering its thorax and posterior region of the head. The antennae are many-segmented, long and slender, and the mouth parts are adapted for chewing. The forewings are normally leathery and the hind wings membranous. The coccyx of the legs are flattened to enable the femurs to fit neatly against them when folded. Cockroaches are hemimetabolous. There is no pupal stage and the nymphs resemble the adults apart from their size and the absence of wings. 21. Female cockroaches produce an egg sac known as an ootheca and can hold anywhere from 12 to 25 eggs depending upon the species. 23. Some species display parenting behavior, whereas other species have nothing to do with the young. In most species, growth to maturity takes 3 to 4 months. 24. But in a few species, the nymph stage can last for several years. The main factors affecting the duration of the nymph stage are seasonal differences, and the amount of nutrients received in the diet. 25. Chemical communication. As in most insect species, cockroaches communicate with one another by the release of pheromones. It has also been discovered that cockroaches release hydrocarbons from their body that are transferred through interactions of the antennae. These hydrocarbons can aid in cockroach communication and can even tell whether an individual is a member of its kin or not to prevent inbreeding. Cockroaches that have been isolated in a lab setting have shown extreme behavioral effects and are less stimulated by these hydrocarbons and pheromones, possibly suggesting a group environment is required for development of these communication skills. 22. Termites. Termites. All species of termite are to some degree eusocial, and the members of a colony are differentiated into caste systems. The majority of termite populations consist of the worker caste, which are responsible for foraging, nest building, grooming, and brood care. The soldier caste has one responsibility, which is to protect the nest from predators and other competitors. Soldiers have highly developed mandibles as well as many exocrine glands that can secrete multiple defensive substances harmful to predators. 26. Normally, only the king and queen termite reproduce, the other castes are all sterile. There are 2 classes of reproductives, primary reproductives and neotenic reproductives. The primary reproductives class is responsible for colony creation and is characterized by compound eyes, wing marks, spots where wings once were before shedding, and defined sclerotization. Neotenic reproductives can develop from within the colony usually when one of the primary reproductives has died, or can develop in addition to the queen. 27. Neotenic reproductives can experience 2 different phenotypes, one with wings and one without. If neotenics are winged they will fly away from the parental colony, pair up and form a new colony, but if they are wingless they will remain within the parental colony. The different developmental routes taken by these 2 morphs are usually dependent upon food availability in the colony, or varying levels of parasitism within the colony. 27. The caste into which any particular nymph will develop begins to become apparent among the late instars. At this time, potential reproductives will begin to show an increase in the size of the gonadal region. 26. Cathedral termite mounds, Northern Territory, Australia. Termite colonies may be arboreal, mound-like or subterranean, with primitive termites nesting completely inside enclosed structures such as stumps or logs. Nest construction is largely from the termites' own fecal matter, other materials being chewed vegetable fiber, which makes a weak carton-like but waterproof substance, and soil, which makes a strong substance, but which is subject to erosion by water. Aerial nests are connected to the ground by enclosed passageways. The soft-bodied, blind workers of most species live permanently in their protected environments and do not venture into the open air. 28. Trinerbiderms trinervoids is an exception to this, with workers foraging in small groups on the surface at night, secreting noxious terpenes to deter predators. 29. The nests are complex structures, and tunnels link them to the foraging areas. 28. In Africa, termite mounds can be as large as 9 meters tall and 30 meters in diameter, producing an area of increased fertility and creating a small hotspot for biodiversity. 30-31. Mantis. Mantises are an order, Mantoidea, of insects that contains over 2,400 species in about 460 genera in 33 families. The largest family is the Mantidae, mantids. Mantises are distributed worldwide in temperate and tropical habitats. They have triangular heads with bulging eyes supported on flexible necks. Their elongated bodies may or may not have wings, but all Mantoidea have forelegs that are greatly enlarged and adapted for catching and gripping prey. Their upright posture, while remaining stationary with forearms folded, has led to the common name praying mantis. The closest relatives of mantises are termites and cockroaches, Blattaria, which are all within the superorder Dictyoptera. Mantises are sometimes confused with stick insects, Phasmatodea, other elongated insects such as grasshoppers, Orthoptera, or other more distantly related insects with raptorial forelegs such as mantisflies, Mantispidae. Mantises are mostly ambush predators, but a few ground-dwelling species are found actively pursuing their prey. They normally live for about a year. In cooler climates, the adults lay eggs in autumn, then die. The eggs are protected by their hard capsules and hatch in the spring. Females sometimes practice sexual cannibalism, eating their mates after copulation. Mantises were considered to have supernatural powers by early civilizations, including ancient Greece, ancient Egypt, and Assyria. A cultural trope popular in cartoons imagines the female mantis as a femme fatale. Mantises are among the insects most commonly kept as pets. Taxonomy and evolution. Stagmomantis. Over 2,400 species of mantis in about 430 genera are recognized. 1. They are predominantly found in tropical regions, but some live in temperate areas. 2. 3. The systematics of mantises have long been disputed. Mantises, along with stick insects Phasmatodea, were once placed in the order Orthoptera with the cockroaches, now Blattodea, and ice crawlers, now Blattodea. Christensen, 1991, combined the Mantoidea with the cockroaches and termites into the order Dictyoptera, suborder Mantoidea. 4. 5. The name Mantoidea is formed from the ancient Greek words mantis, mantis meaning prophet, and eidos meaning form, or type. It was coined in 1838 by the German entomologist Hermann Burmeister. 6. 7. The order is occasionally called the mantes, using a Latinized plural of Greek mantis. The name mantid properly refers only to members of the family Mantidae, which was, historically, the only family in the order. The other common name, praying mantis, applied to any species in the order, 8 though in Europe mainly to Mantis religiosa, comes from the typical, prayer-like, posture with folded forelimbs. 9. 10. The vernacular plural, mantises, used in this article, was confined largely to the U.S., with mantids predominantly used as the plural in the UK and elsewhere, until the family Mantidae was further split in 2002. 11. 12. Phylogeny. External. Evolutionary relationships based on Evangelista et al. 2019 are shown in the cladogram. 13. Dictyoptera. Mantoidea, mantises. Blattodea, cockroaches and termites. Mantis. Temporal range. Mantis religiosa, Romania. Scientific classification domain, Eukaryota kingdom, Animalia phylum, Arthropoda class, Insecta superorder, Dictyoptera order, Mantoidea. Burmeister, 1838. Families. Manteria Mantoptera internal. One of the earliest classifications splitting an all-inclusive Mantidae into multiple families was that proposed by Bayer in 1968, recognizing 8 families, 14 though it was not until Ehrman's reclassification into 15 families in 2002-12 that a multiple family classification became universally adopted. Class, in 1997, studied the external male genitalia and postulated that the families Chaeticidae and Metalliticidae diverged from the other families at an early date. 15. However, as previously configured, the Mantidae and Thespidae especially were considered polyphyletic. 16. So the Mantoidea have been revised substantially as of 2019 and now includes 29 families. 17. Fossil mantises. Life restoration of Santan mantis, a primitive fossil mantis known from the early Cretaceous of Brazil, and one of the oldest members of the group. Mantises are thought to have evolved from cockroach-like ancestors. 19. The earliest confidently identified mantis fossils date to the early Cretaceous. 16. Fossils of the group are rare. By 2022, 37 fossil species are known. 16. 20. Fossil mantises, including one from Japan with spines on the front legs as in modern mantises, have been found in Cretaceous amber. 21. Most fossils in amber are nymphs. Compression fossils in rock include adults. Fossil mantises from the Crato Formation in Brazil include the 10 mm, 0.39 in, long Santan mantis axelrodi, described in 2003. As in modern mantises, the front legs were adapted for catching prey. Well-preserved specimens yield details as small as 5 micrometers through X-ray computed tomography. 16. Extinct families and genera include 16. Extinct families and genera include Basomantidae, Gurlomantidae, Cretomantidae. Similar insects in the Neuroptera. Because of the superficially similar raptorial forelegs, mantidflies may be confused with mantises, though they are unrelated. Their similarity is an example of convergent evolution. Mantidflies do not have tegmina, leathery forewings, like mantises. Their antennae are shorter and less thread-like, and the raptorial tibia is more muscular than that of a similar-sized mantis and bends back farther in preparation for shooting out to grasp prey. 22. Anatomy. Wing arrangement of a typical mantis, adult male Raptrix perspicua. The raptorial foreleg, showing the unusually long coxa, which, together with the trochanter, gives the impression of a femur. The femur itself is the proximal segment of the grasping part of the leg. Mantis moving on a wall. Mantises have large, triangular heads with a beak-like snout and mandibles. They have 2 bulbous compound eyes, 3 small simple eyes, and a pair of antennae. The articulation of the neck is also remarkably flexible. Some species of mantis can rotate their heads nearly 180 degrees. 10. The mantis thorax consists of a prothorax, a mesothorax, and a metathorax. In all species apart from the genus Mantoidea, the prothorax, which bears the head and forelegs, is much longer than the other two thoracic segments. The prothorax is also flexibly articulated, allowing for a wide range of movements of the head and forelimbs while the remainder of the body remains more or less immobile. 23-24. Mantises also are unique to the Dictyoptera in that they have tympanate hearing. Biology. With two tympana in an auditory chamber in their metathorax. Most mantises can only hear ultrasound. 25. Mantises have two spiked, grasping forelegs, raptorial legs, in which prey items are caught and held securely. In most insect legs, including the posterior forelegs of a mantis, the coxa and trochanter combine as an inconspicuous base of the leg. In the raptorial legs, however, the coxa and trochanter combine to form a segment about as long as the femur, which is a spiky part of the grasping apparatus. See illustration. Located at the base of the femur is a set of discoidal spines, usually 4 in number, but ranging from none to as many as 5 depending on the species. These spines are preceded by a number of tooth-like tubercles, which, along with a similar series of tubercles along the tibia and the apical claw near its tip, give the foreleg of the mantis its grasp on its prey. The foreleg ends in a delicate tarsus used as a walking appendage, made of 4 or 5 segments and ending in a two-toed claw with no aurolium. 23-26. Mantises can be loosely categorized as being macropterous, long-winged, brachypterous, short-winged, micropterous, vestigial-winged, or apterous wingless. If not wingless, a mantis has 2 sets of wings. The outer wings, or tegmina, are usually narrow and leathery. They function as camouflage and as a shield for the hindwings, which are clearer and more delicate. 23-27. The abdomen of all mantises consists of 10 tergites, with a corresponding set of 9 sternites visible in males and 7 visible in females. The abdomen tends to be slimmer in males than females, but ends in a pair of cerci in both sexes. 23. Vision. Head of Archimantis latistyla, showing the compound eyes and labrum. Mantises have stereo vision. 28-29-30. They locate their prey by sight. Their compound eyes contain up to 10,000 ommatidae. A small area at the front called the fovea has greater visual acuity than the rest of the eye, and can produce the high resolution necessary to examine potential prey. The peripheral ommatidae are concerned with perceiving motion. When a moving object is noticed, the head is rapidly rotated to bring the object into the visual field of the fovea. Further motions of the prey are then tracked by movements of the mantis's head so as to keep the image centered on the fovea. 26-31. The eyes are widely spaced and laterally situated, affording a wide binocular field of vision and precise stereoscopic vision at close range. 32. The dark spot on each eye that moves as it rotates its head is a pseudopupil. This occurs because the ommatidae that are viewed, head-on, absorb the incident light, while those to the side reflect it. 33. As their hunting relies heavily on vision, mantises are primarily diurnal. Many species, however, fly at night, and then may be attracted to artificial lights. They have good night vision. 34. Mantises in the family Litergusidae collected at night have been shown to be predominantly males. 35. This is probably true for most mantises. Nocturnal flight is especially important to males in locating less mobile females by detecting their pheromones. Flying at night exposes mantises to fewer bird predators than diurnal flight would. Many mantises also have an auditory thoracic organ that helps them avoid bats by detecting their echolocation calls and responding evasively. 36-37. Diet and hunting. Tenodera sinensis feeding on a cricket. Tenodera sinensis consuming a smaller immature mantis. A Chinese mantis catches a differential grasshopper. Mantises are generalist predators of arthropods. 2. The majority of mantises are ambush predators that only feed upon live prey within their reach. They either camouflage themselves and remain stationary, waiting for prey to approach, or stalk their prey with slow, stealthy movements. 38. Larger mantises sometimes eat smaller individuals of their own species. 39. As well as small vertebrates such as lizards, frogs, fish, and particularly small birds. 40, 41, 42. Most mantises stalk tempting prey if it strays close enough, and will go further when they are especially hungry. 43. Once within reach, mantises strike rapidly to grasp the prey with their spiked raptorial forelegs. 44. Some ground and bark species pursue their prey in a more active way. For example, members of a few genera such as the ground mantises Entella, Lagaria, and Lagariella run over dry ground seeking prey, much as tiger beetles do. 23. Some mantis species such as Euantisepulchra can discriminate between different types of prey, and approached spiders mimicking non-aggressive ant species much more than spiders that mimicked aggressive ant species. 45. The foregut of some species extends the whole length of the insect and can be used to store prey for digestion later. This may be advantageous in an insect that feeds intermittently. 46. Chinese mantises live longer, grow faster, and produce more young when they are able to eat pollen. 47. Antipredator adaptations. Mantises are preyed on by vertebrates such as frogs, lizards, and birds, and by invertebrates such as spiders, large species of hornets, and ants. 48. Some hunting wasps, such as some species of tockites, also paralyze some species of mantis to feed their young. 49. Generally, mantises protect themselves by camouflage, most species being cryptically colored to resemble foliage or other backgrounds, both to avoid predators and to better snare their prey. 50. Those that live on uniformly colored surfaces such as bare earth or tree bark are dorsoventrally flattened so as to eliminate shadows that might reveal their presence. 51. The species from different families called flower mantises are aggressive mimics. They resemble flowers convincingly enough to attract prey that come to collect pollen and nectar. 52, 53, 54. Some species in Africa and Australia are able to turn black after a molt towards the end of the dry season. At this time of year, bush fires occur and this coloration enables them to blend in with the fire-ravaged landscape fire melanism. 51. Aggressive mimicry. Malaysian orchid mantises are camouflaged pink or yellow, matching the coloration of local orchids. Praying mantises exhibiting motion camouflage. When directly threatened, many mantis species stand tall and spread their forelegs, with their wings fanning out wide. The fanning of the wings makes the mantis seem larger and more threatening, with some species enhancing this effect with bright colors and patterns on their hindwings and inner surfaces of their front legs. If harassment persists, a mantis may strike with its forelegs and attempt to pinch or bite. As part of the bluffing diametic threat display, some species may also produce a hissing sound by expelling air from the abdominal spiracles. Mantises lack chemical protection, so their displays are largely bluff. When flying at night, at least some mantises are able to detect the echolocation sounds produced by bats. When the frequency begins to increase rapidly, indicating an approaching bat, they stop flying horizontally and begin a descending spiral toward the safety of the ground, often preceded by an aerial loop or spin. If caught, they may slash captors with their raptorial legs. 51, 55, 56. Mantises, like stick insects, show rocking behavior in which the insect makes rhythmic, repetitive side-to-side movements. Functions proposed for this behavior include the enhancement of crypsis by means of the resemblance to vegetation moving in the wind. However, the repetitive swaying movements may be most important in allowing the insects to discriminate objects from the background by their relative movement, a visual mechanism typical of animals with simpler sight systems. Rocking movements by these generally sedentary insects may replace flying or running as a source of relative motion of objects in the visual field. 57. As ants may be predators of mantises, genera such as Loxomantis, Orthidera, and Statelia, like many other arthropods, avoid attacking them. A variety of arthropods, including some early instar mantises, exploit this behavior and mimic ants to evade their predators. 58. Leaf mimicry. Choerodotus has leaf-like forewings and a widened green thorax. Adult female Iris oratoria performs a bluffing threat display, rearing back with the forelegs and wings spread and mouth opened. The jeweled flower mantis, Creobroter gemmatus, the brightly colored wings are opened suddenly in a diametic display to startle predators. Some mantis nymphs mimic ants to avoid predators. The grass mantis Schizocephala bicornis mimics dry grass to both avoid predators and to approach unwitting prey. Reproduction and life history. Praying mantis nymphs emerging from their ootheca. The mating season in temperate climates typically takes place in autumn, 59-60, while in tropical areas, mating can occur at any time of the year. 60. To mate following courtship, the male usually leaps onto the female's back, clasping her thorax and wing bases with his forelegs. He then arches his abdomen to deposit and store sperm in a special chamber near the tip of the female's abdomen. The female lays between 10 and 400 eggs, depending on the species. Eggs are typically deposited in a froth mass produced by glands in the abdomen. This froth hardens, creating a protective capsule, which together with the egg mass is called an ootheca. Depending on the species, the ootheca can be attached to a flat surface, wrapped around a plant, or even deposited in the ground. 59. Despite the versatility and durability of the eggs, they are often preyed on, especially by several species of parasitoid wasps. In a few species, mostly ground and bark mantises in the family Pterochodidae, the mother guards the eggs. 59. The cryptic Pterochodes Morris positions herself on bark with her abdomen covering her egg capsule, ambushing passing prey and moving very little until the eggs hatch. 4. An unusual reproductive strategy is adopted by Brunner's stick mantis from the southern United States. No males have ever been found in this species, and the females breed parthenogenetically. 2. The ability to reproduce by parthenogenesis has been recorded in at least 2 other species, Sphodromantis voridis and Myomantis sp, although these species usually reproduce sexually. 61, 62, 63. In temperate climates, adults do not survive the winter and the eggs undergo a diapause, hatching in the spring. 5. As in closely related insect groups in the superorder Dictyoptera, mantises go through 3 life stages. Egg, nymph, and adult mantises are among the hemimetabolous insects. For smaller species, the eggs may hatch in 3 to 4 weeks as opposed to 4 to 6 weeks for larger species. The nymphs may be colored differently from the adult, and the early stages are often mimics of ants. A mantis nymph grows bigger as it molts its exoskeleton. Molting can happen 5 to 10 times before the adult stage is reached, depending on the species. After the final molt, most species have wings, though some species remain wingless or brachypterous, short-winged, particularly in the female sex. The lifespan of a mantis depends on the species. Smaller ones may live 4 to 8 weeks, while larger species may live 4 to 6 months. 224. Mantis religiosa mating, brown male, green female. Stagmomantis carolina laying ootheca. Recently laid M. religiosa ootheca. Hatching from the ootheca. Sphodromantis lineola molting. Sexual cannibalism. Sexual cannibalism in Mantis religiosa. Sexual cannibalism is common among most predatory species of mantises in captivity. It has sometimes been observed in natural populations, where about a quarter of male-female encounters result in the male being eaten by the female. 64, 65, 66. Around 90% of the predatory species of mantises exhibit sexual cannibalism. 67. Adult males typically outnumber females at first, but their numbers may be fairly equivalent later in the adult stage, 5 possibly because females selectively eat the smaller males. 68. In Tenodera sinensis, 83% of males escape cannibalism after an encounter with a female, but since multiple matings occur, the probability of a male's being eaten increases cumulatively. 65. The female may begin feeding by biting off the male's head, as they do with regular prey, and if mating has begun, the male's movements may become even more vigorous in its delivery of sperm. Early researchers thought that because copulatory movement is controlled by a ganglion in the abdomen, not the head, removal of the male's head was a reproductive strategy by females to enhance fertilization while obtaining sustenance.